Yo, it's Kev from Fantasy Wildcard here, the best one from Fantasy Wildcard. You're listening to the Dynasty Hotseat.
Yes, hello everybody, and welcome back once again to the Dynasty Hot Seat, the only Dynasty show out there that is a certified inferno. And today, you heard him. We got Kev from the Fantasy Wildcard crew. Hey, why does that sound a little bit familiar? I'm not really sure. Maybe just because he did say the best one. We got the best two actually from the Fantasy Wildcard crew in the building right now for the Dynasty Hot Seat. Kev, my friend, great to see you. How you doing?
Doing absolutely fantastic, Mags. We're recording a week before the actual NFL draft, and it's come around so quick. So excited about what goes down in a week's time when we get the final two data points, the draft capital, the landing spots. So excited to be on the show and go through my rookies.
Yeah, I can't wait. These are always super interesting to watch this show back and then see how much things change, after the draft has happened. So we'll see how we do with these rookies just right before we find out their landing spots. But before we dive right into this draft, hey, welcome aboard, everybody. If you're new here, thank you very much for coming and joining. If you could be so kind, if I could find the right button to press, if you could be so kind to hit that like and that subscribe button, that would be great. Hey, Kev, we're on a mission. I want to get to that magic 1,000 mark by the end of the year. By the way, people would do absolutely great. I think very doable. So you could help right now if you're listening. So let's get involved and let's do it. And Kev, before I let you unleash the Dynasty mind on everyone with the mock draft, do you just want to tell us what kind of overall impressions, what kind of overall feelings do you have about this 2024 draft class?
It's so strong at the top. Like we seem to do this every year where we get really hyped, but genuinely, this is so strong at the top. At the key position quarterback, I think there's 4 guys there, which I think are really, really solid. One of the best QB classes I can remember at the top for many years. A few elite players at wide receiver as well. I think overall as a class, I love it. I think that like when you get into round 2, there's Rick there, obviously, but there's plenty of upside involved. So if you've got draft picks, well done.
Yeah, you know what I'm noticing about this class as well? Something that's sort of only clicked the last couple of days. Every year, like even you go back to like even like 2020, at this stage, so many people were like, "Oh, but the 21 class," or in 21, people are like, "Oh, but the 22 class," and you get that every year. Even last year with the 23 class, which was amazing, all we heard was, "Oh, but the 24 class." This year, I'm hearing, "Oh, but the 25 class," and then just people doing stinky emojis, right? Because it's not looking great in a lot of positions. So if you have got draft picks here, yeah, you're doing really, really well. So if you have only got those 25 picks, do you think it would be good advice maybe use some of them to really try and get into this year's draft just the way that we are looking next year, where people are a little bit down on it compared to the normal super hype it's getting by now?
I think it's personally not the right move to be doing that. I think we know that draft capital, it appreciates in value over time. So next year's class at the moment is not worth as much as it will be in, say, 9 months' time. But also, the thing is, when you're getting to pick 9, 10, 11, 12 in round 1 of this class, that's where there's a lot of risk that starts coming into it. So I think if it was less risky in round 1 at the bottom, yeah. But if you are going to use a 25th first, I'd only be doing it if I'm getting a really good deal to move up into that top 4 or top 6 or 7, where you're getting a really solid contributor from day one.
Absolutely. That's why they call you the mind, man. That is absolutely why. So let's see if we can put that mind to the test, because we're going to pull up here our mock draft. Kev, we're going to go through 2 rounds with these 2024 rookies. It is a super flex. It is not a tight end premium, which is always an interesting conversation later when we come to a certain hyped up tight end, which we'll get to soon. But Kev, we're going to start things off with pick 1-1 in the Superflex mock draft. Who are you going with, my friend?
So I think, first of all, there's 4 guys that it could potentially be, but actually, like, QB is king. This guy is the 101. He's been the 101 for quite a while. And I have seen arguments that a wide receiver could be taking over this guy, but I just feel there's so much solid value in his market and sort of the range of outcomes. It's Caleb Williams out of USC. I just feel that in Superflex leagues, QBs are still treated as gold. And I just think, like, even if he has a bad season or like an average season, he's going to retain his value. We've seen QBs that are lesser than Caleb Williams, like Kenny Pickett. His value gained massively after one season. Will Levis has done exactly the same. We've seen guys like Justin Fields, when he had a poor rookie season, he dropped about a round in ADP in Dynasty startups. So in the worst case, you've got the option to have an exit strategy with Caleb Williams in a year's time, but there's lots of best case scenarios where this guy's borderline top 5 when he shows what he can do on the field. I think the Mahomes comps, I personally think they're fair. I do see a bit of Aaron Rodgers in his game as well. The stuff off the field stuff's overblown in my eyes. I think pick 1 in the NFL draft, great situation as well. Tons to like. Just think so solid that you can't go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, the off-field stuff, like, it's more to do with his dad, really, than anything else. And Patrick Mahomes has proven that you can have a renegade family member and still be a really, really good player. So I wouldn't worry about that too much with Caleb Williams. And I don't think Caleb is like, if maybe some people are new to Dynasty and are thinking, hold on, but wait a minute, Bryce Young was the guy last year that was 1-1, and look what's happened to me. It's very much apples and oranges, Bryce Young and Caleb Williams, right?
Yeah, I feel that, like, Caleb Williams, he's been the projected 101 for years. And in my eyes, he's delivered on the field. He's been put in sort of a tough situation where people will say that, yeah, he's passing the ball a ton, they're playing from behind. But let's not also forget that when you play negative game scripts, they know the pass is coming. And he's still been able to deliver really outstanding production on the back of that.
Here's the big question. I've asked a few people this, Kev. Caleb Williams, does he get the generational tag for you, or is he just falling short?
See, it's really difficult because generational at QB, when you think of some of the best ones for fantasy, it's not always been someone that's classed as generational straight away. Look at Josh Allen. He was considered a low graded prospect coming out. You've got Jalen Hurts, a round 2 guy. You've got CJ Stroud, who was viewed as the QB3 last year. So I'm not quite there with generational, but I think he's in that elite tier as a prospect coming out of college.
Yeah, I'm absolutely right there with you. He's not quite there for me generationally wise. Plus, I've always said the word's kind of overused. Why? How can this be our 3rd generational quarterback within the same generation, right? So it's kind of like, right, okay, let's maybe pump the brakes a little bit. But yeah, you're right. I think he's just right off there. But he's definitely locked in at your 101. Who's following Caleb Williams at the 102 position then, Kev?
Slight shock for most. It's going to be a wide receiver, but it's not the one that people expect. I'm going to go Malik Nabers. He's my wide receiver 1, only just over the guy I'm going to come to next. But I just feel he's got such a well-rounded game. You can use him at all the different spots within the offense. I love the production. I love the tape, the metrics. It all lines up to be a smash. There's slight concerns of where he does end up going in the draft, because I think in real life, many will expect Marvin Harrison to go first out of the wide receivers, and it's likely going to be the Cardinals, which I think is a great spot. And Nabers could end up in what's viewed as a lesser spot like the Giants potentially. But honestly, like, you're banking on talent, and I think Nabers or Harrison are great picks at this spot. Look at the dynasty value in startups. They're both wide receiver 1s to begin with. We're seeing that wide receivers, they can have a free pass as well at the moment. You see JSN last season struggled and pretty much maintained his value. So I think, yeah, Nabers is the pick here for me. Did an excellent final season at LSU, which LSU actually is the wide receiver U. It's not Ohio State, it's LSU, because they actually produce players which are good for fantasy. Maybe that's a little bit of shade at the next guy we're coming to, but yeah, Malik Nabers is my wide receiver 1 and he's my second pick in this draft.
And yeah, there'll be people watch this going like, "Whoa! Like how can you take it whenever you're admitting that Marvin Harrison's going to go before him in the draft?" But you've very much got your fantasy hat on here. You don't care how good an NFL player these guys are going to be. You've got how many points are they going to score me? So is Marvin Harrison Jr. your 103? Is he following Nabers right away, or are we going to get to him later?
No, you're absolutely right, Mags. Marvin Harrison Jr. is my 103. You can make a debate like in my rankings, they're 1 and 2. You could make the debate that actually, based on how strong the market is for Marvin Harrison, I could bump him up to number 1, just because I think he's got even more leeway than Malik Nabers, because everybody's so hyped for him. The fact that his father was an outstanding wide receiver in the NFL a good 20 years ago when I started watching the game. Ohio State people see that and see people like Olave and JSN and Garrett Wilson and stick that label on him as well. So lots of insulation there. I think where he's been viewed, it's tough for him to hit. I feel if he's a top 5 Dynasty wide receiver already, that's difficult to hit. That's like 100% or near 100% range of outcomes. We're assuming that he's just going to be that person. There's not many holes in his game though, so I'm really comfortable with him taking him at the 103. But yeah, I think in some leagues could take him 102 over Nabers, no problem.
What is it about then Malik Nabers compared to Marvin Harrison, where you think in terms of fantasy production, Malik Nabers just has the edge over Harrison?
I think Harrison's last season was a slight concern for me. The fact that there was poor QB play, but his performance really dropped off. His catch rate was a lot lower. His efficiency was less. That is a minor concern. Like Harrison, he's a touchdown guy. He can win deep. He's an ex-receiver, someone that's going to be the focal point. But I just feel there's more versatility with Nabers in the fact that he can clearly win from all 3 spots. And I just feel the both situation, whichever situation goes, they're both going to be fine. But I just feel Nabers can win more on a given day. So let's say there's a lockdown outside corner, they can move Nabers into slot without a problem. I think it's less of a positive for Harrison to do that. I think he's better outside.
A lot of pressure for Marvin Harrison as well. Not seen this really covered a lot, but we've not seen a wide receiver come into the NFL with so much hype since, I mean, weirdly enough, probably Sammy Watkins. And look how that turned out. I mean, obviously he was marred by injuries, but that's something that's maybe worth talking about a little bit. Maybe not for this show, but maybe after the draft, is we don't really see wide receivers get the quarterback hype, but Marvin Harrison's getting that quarterback hype. Do you think that could even play a part into how he succeeds, and even to play a part into how people play Marvin Harrison, thinking, "Oh, here's this new hotshot coming in, I'll show him"? And do you think that could factor in at all?
I think it reminds me a little bit of Jamar Chase in the sense of in patches early on in his college career, outstanding, elite, amazing, and then obviously Chase didn't play his last season. Harrison had down last season. People are raving about Jamar Chase, but look at the numbers. His numbers are pretty much identical to Amon-Ra St. Brown. So, yeah, it might be that in real life, Harrison's great. But if we're purely thinking numbers, there's definitely some downside to where what people think is going to be. There's more risk there than what people actually see.
Love it. So you got Harrison locked in at 103. Who's following up at pick number 4 for you, Kev?
So this is the end of my tier. So I think the top 4 picks in your Superflex drafts are really key for me. I'm coming back to a QB now. Now, in terms of the QB model as such that I have, it's a guy that's actually ranking QB1 in my model. But the reason I'm putting him a little bit lower in sort of this mock draft is because I do see a wider range of outcomes. And being honest, if I don't have to take the risk at this spot, I don't want to. I want to hit on these high first round picks. There will be some rebuilds where you're thinking, shoot for the moon, take this guy over Caleb Williams, but actually you don't need to do that. You can just trade back a little bit and take this guy, Jaden Daniels, out of LSU. So there's so much upside with the rushing, the touchdowns. It's a rushing league at QB, a Konami league. It gives you the edge no matter how you view this guy as a passer. I get the concerns with the slight frame and how he, whenever he's getting pressure, he takes off and runs, because you want to see a QB that's willing to stand in there, take a hit and deliver it. But he's so much better as a passer than people give him credit for. Some of the so efficient deep, a deep passer. Someone that's, he had Malik Nabers, he had Brian Thomas at wide receiver. So that's it's kind of like the Joe Burrow situation. Is it because of Burrow? Or is it because of Jefferson and Chase? It could be that all three are amazing. So we'll see how that one plays out. But Daniels is a guy, 5 years in college. He's played in various schemes. He broke out early. He's had an amazing final season. He's someone that's actually less than a year older than Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, a 3-year guy. Jaden Daniels, 5-year guy. So super young when he came in. People are overblowing the age, I think. He's someone that people might think could slide in the draft if he gets past Washington at 2. But I think he's, for fantasy, he's someone that, and I'm not saying they're exactly the same player because they've been on a slightly different career path, but I'm thinking for fantasy, Anthony Richardson, someone that's maybe a little bit erratic as a runner, someone that's potentially going to get injured like Richardson did because he's not protecting himself very well, but someone also that's giving you that absolute ceiling. If Jaden Daniels hits, we're going to be talking about this guy as a top 3 QB in a year's time.
The upside is just right there, right? And you can see why you've put him in as like your overall quarterback 1, because he quite easily could be the highest scoring quarterback, not just in this draft, but like in the entire NFL in terms of points scored here. The ceiling is ridiculous. I mean, this guy's had games where he's had over 600 yards from scrimmage in college last year, which is mental. And he was, I think I've mentioned this a few times on the show, but hell, it's one of my favorite stats. 3rd in rushing in the SEC this year. Number 3. And that's including any negative yards he got from getting sacked. So that is just insane for a guy to get that at the quarterback position. You know, I've seen a lot of tweets sort of saying, people say that, Jaden Daniels, he's not as good an athlete as like a Lamar Jackson or Justin Fields. I'm like, you sure about that? Like, you watched him play? This guy is an insanely good athlete. He's not as good at Lamar in terms of how he takes hits. Like, Lamar's an absolute wizard at that. He's not as like built out as a Lamar Jackson either, but I think he's got a better arm than Justin Fields, and his arm is right up there with Lamar's. Lamar's arm's improved a lot, but Jaden Daniels way better than Lamar's arm coming out of college. Would you say that, Kev?
Yeah, and I think just the Lamar comp's an interesting one because look at Jaden Daniels last season. He was super efficient, someone that had question marks as a passer, and you would argue that he was the MVP of college football. Does that sound like Lamar Jackson to you?
Sounds like him to me. Think he's going to slip to the end of the first round. That would be crazy, right? Imagine that.
I can't see it, but who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. So we got Jaden Daniels locked in at pick number 4. Who's following him up at pick 5, Kev?
Again, I'm sticking at QB. It's a new tier now, but I'm going against consensus, going against grain a little bit. JJ McCarthy's my pick here. Someone that's getting a lot more hype to be going top 10, top 5 in real life. But when you compare him to the guy who's at number 6 for me, Drake May, he's someone that's was higher recruited coming out of high school. So a 5-star recruit. He was someone that's played in tough conference. He's played tough schedules against better teams, better ranked teams. And he's delivered. He lost 1 game in college as a starter. He's won a national title. People will say that the production's lower, but he broke out early. He's got a great QB rating, better than Drake May in college. And the only knock I'm really seeing, or the couple of knocks, is that he doesn't rush much and that he's not had to pass much because of how good his team is. So I don't think you can hold that against him. Like, put him in a situation where he's playing from behind, he's going to pass more and he's going to inflate his numbers, and he's probably going to rush more as well because obviously passing game script, you're going to get more opportunities to rush. So I don't think we can totally discount that. He's lucky his 40 time, a great athlete running a 40. Not saying that 100% translates to being a Konami QB or scrambling, etc. But it's worth noting that he has got that in his locker should he end up in a situation where he has got to run. So, I think tons to like in JJ McCarthy, someone that I truly believe should be in the discussion in that tier with Drake May, and I'm not seeing that discussion too much. Maybe we'll see more of this after draft when he goes top 10.
Do you know what thought has just crossed my mind about JJ McCarthy? What if we're being hoodwinked again, like we were with Malik Willis or all the prospects, where all of a sudden this guy who was never expected to go anywhere near the first round gets huge hype, and turns out that was it. And JJ McCarthy ends up going in the third round. Does that completely flip this on your head, and you just can't take him here? Or do you believe in the prospect so much, or are you more leaning, well, if he goes top 10, then I gotta take him here because the team believes in him that much?
I think, yeah, you're absolutely right that there is certain prospects which are, they say beware of the late risers, because they've been sort of disregarded for a reason. I mean, Malik Willis was one of these guys that this happened to, but it gets me thinking about some of the wide receivers that are getting a little bit of hype, which we may or may not come on to tonight, but just guys like McConkey and Polk come spring to mind that are sneaking into these mock drafts. But I won't give them too much abuse. JJ McCarthy, I think he's locked in. Like, the caliber's there. 5-star out of high school, won a national title. Yeah, there's lots to like from an off-field point of view. Of the leadership aspect. So no doubt for me he's going to go top 12, but can't wait for you to cut this up when he goes in round 3.
Yeah, no, I don't. I'm playing devil's advocate, Kev. I think he'll be fine. If he goes to the Minnesota Vikings, look out. That's the dream landing spot right there. If he goes there, then in fact, just last thing on JJ McCarthy, we'll move on. If he does go to the Vikings, does he sneak into that tier for you with a Jaden Daniels and those other guys, or is there really not much he could do to get into that tier?
No, I think like my view on landing spot is it's a tier breaker. Like, it's anybody gets a landing spot that's excellent, I'm not going to move them up a tier, but it will be a tie break between him and the next guy. So if, let's say, JJ McCarthy gets a bad landing spot and the next guy gets a good one, I could flip that, no doubt.
Yeah, you tease the next guy. Is that the next quarterback off the board?
It certainly is Drake May, a guy that's been consensus QB2 for a lot of people. I think he's settling in now, QB2, QB3, depending on sort of which tool you look at, which market you view. Someone that has had a big name in college. Like, you go back a year, people would say it's Caleb Williams and then it's Drake May. Yeah. So Devi Darlings will love Drake May, and don't get me wrong, he's my QB4, but I mentioned at the start of the show 4 really top tier QBs in that rookie model I touted at the start. There's 7 metrics that I use, and they are thresholds, and all these top 4 QBs hit every threshold. So I personally think they're all going to hit. In terms of Dynasty Fantasy, I don't think we're going to have any busts out of those based on that probability and based on the out of the threshold, out of that select tier. You're probably looking at a 9 out of 10 hit rate in terms of sort of the success and having QB1 seasons, etc. So Drake May is a guy I like, but there's concerns in his profile which I think the community overlooks, like the fact that he played in a really weak competition. And we've seen a guy like Trevor Lawrence come out of that conference, and for fantasy, he's not lit it up. He's not met expectations. You can paint a picture though where Drake May, if he hits 100% best possible outcome, he could be similar to Josh Allen. That's like ceiling wise. If he's used as Josh Allen is, he's got the big frame, it can be used as a rusher. That would be it. We have got to also bear in mind that Josh Allen is a massive outlier. He wasn't viewed as a great college prospect, and he was a work in progress. So everything would have to fall right for Drake May on landing spot, on draft capital, on patience with this QB as well. Because let's say he goes to a franchise where he's not winning games, that's going to become an issue like it has for Justin Fields. But yeah, Drake May, someone that I think raw talent is fantastic. He has shown it in patches. A little bit inconsistent for me, but someone that I do feel is going to be, again, top 10 or 12 in real life. And he's going to give you an opportunity in a year's time. If he's maybe not hitting as you expected, you will be able to move off him at probably 90% of what you paid for him today.
Yeah, I think Drake May is somebody who he seems like he's just ready-made for like Red Zone. I feel like we're going to watch Drake May a lot on Red Zone next year, either for the good or the bad. He seems like, you're right, that Josh Allen kind of gunslinger mentality. I don't think he's quite as physical as Josh Allen, but you have to remember about these guys. Like Drake May is what age? 22, 23 maybe?
No.
Yeah, he's got time to grow into that frame and get bigger. We kind of sometimes forget about these guys, that they're not the finished article, and people can get better and people can get bigger and can get stronger. So yeah, I could see Drake May like really growing into that frame and becoming more of a force like a Josh Allen for sure. So I'm excited to see what's coming up for Drake May, and to get him at pick number 6, I think is really good value for your dynasty team. So is he the end of a tier for you then, Kev, or do you still have a couple of more guys in this tier?
He is the end of the tier. That's tier's done. So I see 104 as a nice spot, and I see 106 as a nice spot. So if you can get to these ends of the tiers, you're going to get that little bit more value for your dynasty teams.
Yeah, perfect. So then who's the starter of your next tier then at 1-7?
So start next tier, Rome Odunze, wide receiver, expected to be a top 10 pick in real life.
Yep.
I think some classes he would be considered wide receiver 1 just because of how elite Nabers and Harrison are in this one. Again, lots to love in his game. I think that there's not many holes. He's someone that I consider well-rounded. I'm intrigued to see where it goes. I think he is more landing spot dependent than the first two I mentioned, but he safely clears the wide receiver 4, 5, 6 beyond that. So he is in a tier. He's the only wide receiver in this tier. So I think if you're a team sort of middle of the pack and you've got a mid-round pick, he's someone that's going to be super safe to help you make that step moving forward. I think as well, it's really important that he's shown with that wide receiver core at Washington. It's got plenty of talent there. If you're reading up on the 3 or 4 guys that came out, they're all talented, and he's the one that's shone the brightest. Which again, that gives me more comfort over someone like a Malik Nabers as well, someone that has another first round wide receiver on his team, and he's smashed it. I think Dunze, he might be the only wide receiver from Washington that gets taken in round 1, unless you believe in Jalen Polk.
Yeah, second time you mentioned good old Jalen Polk. I don't know if we'll get to Jalen Polk later, but yeah, I've got a couple of insights on Jalen Polk as well, which we'll maybe talk about off air, Kev.
I'll give you a hint, Max. He's not in my top 24.
He's not in the top 24 yet. Well, we'll see. Well, Jalen Polk wasn't Michael Penix's number 2 option either at Washington, so I don't know why all of a sudden he's a number 2 option for everybody else. But let's move on from Penix's undisputed number 1 option to who's coming up next at pick number 8.
Yeah, I can't believe I didn't mention this towards the start when I was giving the overview. Like I mentioned, so strong at QB at the top. It's so strong at wide receiver at the top and the depth there.
Yeah.
Didn't even mention the generational tight end in air quotes in Brock Bowers. Someone that's again, if you play Devy or if you pay attention to college football, this is a name that you'll be familiar with. Someone that's an absolute beast. Like so many games over 100 yards from tight end used as a tight end. It's truly mind blowing. Like the ceiling is incredible. It's not what we've seen for many years. I think he runs a little bit awkward. He runs like Waterboy. I've said that before. Slightly smaller. People are concerned about he hasn't tested. He hasn't put an official number on the board as such. But yeah, I'm not a tape guy, but look at the tape. He's outrunning DBs a bigger size. So we know he's super rapid. He did that standing backflip as well. So that shows some explosion there. No concerns for me. I think if it was tight end premium, this gets really exciting. But just based on him being a tight end and it's non-premium, it has to go in this spot for me. He has to go in this tier. There might be some leagues with casuals where he goes higher because of the name. But yeah, not for me. 108 is ceiling in this draft. But I think for the tight end landscape, it could easily be tight end 1 in a year's time. We saw what Laporta did. I think Bowers can be that. I think in a worst case, because tight ends get such a grace with their how they develop in their career, you've probably got 3 years. Look at Kyle Pitts. He had that sneaky rookie season, and then people are backing on him again now, entering year 4. So yeah, lots to love in his profile. I think it's so safe as well at this spot. And yeah, if you've got the 108, you're absolutely loving the fact you get a blue chip sort of guy that's keeping his value for the next 3 years.
And yeah, the testing thing's a weird one, right? Because it's like, you know who else didn't test? Almost every other guy we've talked about on this list here. Like, it was just sort of a year where the top guys didn't test, the top quarterbacks did not test, the top wide receivers did not test, and the top tight end did not test. It's kind of like not detrimental, but only bad things can happen to Brock Bowers by testing. He's already the tight end 1. No tight end's going to be taken before him. So what's he got left to prove by testing for anyone? Same thing with Caleb Williams. Like, the only thing that could happen that would affect his value in testing is a negative one. So
yeah,
why would you? So if anything, Kev, it's showing that he's got that mind, just like
he's got that dynasty mind. Yeah,
absolutely. So love Brock Bowers in there at pick number 8. You got a couple of picks left the first round, Kev. Who's going in at pick number 9?
So this is a new tier, and it's a tier of 1.
Ooh,
which is quite uncommon, I think, when you look at sort of other content creators' rankings or sites' rankings. Tend to have tiers of 4 or 5 people, but the reason this guy's in a tier of zone is he wouldn't make the cut against guys above him, and the tier below, I'd take him every time over the tier below. So what's the point of putting him in that tier if you're going to take him over the rest of them every time? There's no point. So this guy's in a tier of zone, and I think it's with good reason that he's in a tier of zone, because I think he's got probably the widest range of outcomes of any player we've had so far in the draft, including some of the riskier prospects. I think, it might not be who you expect, but it's savior worthy. My wide receiver 4, someone that, if you're looking at metrics like his PFF grade was really poor in college, his yards per out ran were below expected. Someone that, when you look at like Lance Zierlein's film grades at NFL.com, it was sort of average or below expectation. That's all the negatives. What I really like about his profile is I feel that he's going to be a round 1 guy after that combine.
Yeah.
The size, again, it's overblown. The fact that the NFL's changing, we've seen small guys really shine. It probably pigeonholes to where he can play in the NFL. I don't think he's going to be superb as a slot receiver, just because he get absolutely mullered playing over the middle on a consistent basis. But biggest 2 things I like in his profile is the college dominator rating, that he was able to command the opportunity and deliver excellent production. And this is from an excellent breakout age, someone that broke out as a freshman and was unbelievable. Again, if you've been playing Devy or have any inkling into college football, 2 years ago, he was going so early in Devy drafts. Like, he was considered a star of the position. The last 2 years, it's been really difficult in that offense. The QB there, Quinn Ewers, he's been borderline terrible for what was expected of him as a basically perfect prospect coming out of high school. I just feel there's a lot of range of outcomes here, and I'm all in on this guy. I think, just early production and being able to command a target share and deliver is really big for me, despite his size.
Do you know what I just think would be so many people just going, oh my God. And this team should not draft this guy, but it would be very much on brand if this team drafted this guy. But what would an offense at the Miami Dolphins look like if they also drafted Xavier Worthy? Can you talk to me about that, Kev? Because I've been thinking about that for the last few days.
Yeah, I think any team that's playing the Dolphins against those three, it's they're going to have to be taking sleeping tablets out to have that Saturday night sleep before facing them on the Sunday. I think actually Worthy, Waddle, there's a bit of comp there. I think that could potentially be a similar type trajectory where he comes in as a 2. He can have weeks where he's a 1, but volatile.
Yeah, I think that I just really want to see that. And I think the Dolphins are picking like 20 something, so they're right in that wheelhouse where you wouldn't be mad if you wouldn't call it a massive reach if they're taking Xavier Worthy there. So I think that'll be a real fun landing spot. Maybe not the best for his dynasty value because he's got so much competition around him, but hell of a lot of fun to watch for Xavier Worthy. So love that pick, and I love that he's in a tier of his own. So just maybe to clarify on tiers, we kind of talked about it a little bit. I think we have the same definition of tiers, Kev, here, and you're saying that if a player is in a tier with another player, some of the time you would take one of them, some of the time you take the other. But if they're in a tier below, you would never take those guys in any scenario above the guys in the tier above. Is that what you make of it?
That's exactly what I make of it. And you will see that some people there have tiers and there's like 8, 9, 10 guys, but I don't see it as a tier if there's never going to be a point where you take one over the other in a certain situation. Like you could say they're a similar value, but they're not the same tier in that respect.
Yeah, that's exactly how I do tiers as well, Kev. So
Smart guy.
We're on the same mindset as usual there. So that's great. So you got 3 picks left to round 1. Who are you going with a pick 10, Kev?
See, this is getting more risky by the day. The more I read about him, but it's Troy Franklin at 10 for me, a guy that I love the college tape. I think the combine, it was slightly off-putting. Seeing some of the drills, the gauntlet drill, it was all over the place. Some of the catches on the sideline, it was awkward, bobbly, fumbly type guy. But I just feel that, again, a guy that came out of high school with a huge resume, great rating. I think it was a 5-star rating as well. A player that he wins deep, he scores touchdowns. I think most touchdowns in Oregon Ducks history at wide receiver.
Yep.
And someone that is electrifying. There is concerns the fact that he's slightly built. Can he beat press coverage? Can he win over the middle? Those concerns exist, but I feel that he's one of the guys that's got the most the most to lose with a bad landing spot. It's got to kind of be perfect. I think he's purely a Z receiver playing off the line of scrimmage, someone that's not going to be playing bump and run against the cornerback, and someone that's not going to be in the slot often either because of his size. So very niche on where he needs to go to succeed. But if he does go to a spot where he's used on the outside opposite a big dude on the other side and got a QB that can pass deep, aka the Steelers, then I think Troy Franklin's going to be what we wanted Jameson Williams to be.
Yeah, the Steelers. Well, who knows who's going to be throwing the ball at the Steelers, right? But I was thinking you were describing my own Kansas City Chiefs. There. I've been visualizing. I've been visualizing. Troy Franklin over there, and there's as long as he gets a show fair, we're going to be all good over at Kansas City, right? So we got Franklin locked in. You got 2 more guys in the first round, Kev. Who's going to pick 11?
Yeah, this guy's a little bit lower than consensus. It's Brian Thomas Jr., a guy that consensus you see him at 4 a lot of places. Real life is expected to go maybe mid-round 1 or towards the end of round 1, and he's going. If he goes later in round 1, it's to a team that's pretty good, which is obviously positive. I spoke on the Wildcard Dynasty show this week about Thomas, that he's a player that, despite him obviously having the excellent production last season, I still think he's really raw. And I think if he goes to a spot where he's expected to be a huge contributor early, I think that's going to potentially break him. I'd love to see him go to a spot where he can maybe be eased in slowly, split time, not have to do it all himself, because he's a really intriguing profile, someone that was excellent in terms of efficiency, but also was excellent deep. So you don't really see that correlate too strongly. Was it just a fluke season because his first 2 years he had 300 yards off 30 catches, some sort of a nominal amount for those first 2 seasons in college, and then this massive breakout with Daniels and Nabers. So yeah, again, a lot of range of outcomes in his profile. Someone that I want to go to a team where he's going to be mentored and sort of eased in slowly, but fantastic ceiling. However, fair amount of risk based on where he's going currently. Hence why I've got him lower at wide receiver 6.
I think Thomas has got all the attributes, right? You just look at him, you're like, yeah, tick, 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 tick. So if he can go somewhere where you're right, I think ease into it, just sort of slowly be brought along. I think that'll be really great for. The only thing that annoys me about Thomas, he's a big, strong guy, and no one's calling him Thomas the Tank Engine. I don't really understand it, Kev. I think we need to push that on the wild card show a little bit more. So we'll work on that for Brad Thomas the Tank Engine, right? So let's see who's following him up with the last pick of the first round for you, Kev.
Right, I'll mention this guy because I think it'll wind you up, Mags.
Ooh, okay.
You probably know what it's going like. Consensus-wise, people will be expecting somebody like A.D. Mitchell here, someone that's expected to go round 1, someone that's maybe not performed as he could in college. He has shown it in spurts, but I'm not going to go for him just yet. I want to talk about Keon Coleman, which this is interesting because you look at everything in terms of his profile, there's a lot that I don't like. The fact that he's a slower guy, someone that's made his living off of highlights rather than consistency. But there is bits in his profile I really like. The fact that he actually outperformed Jaden Reed in college at Michigan State at a younger age than Jaden Reed, which I thought was impressive. I think there's some other factors there why it did happen, but I still think that's something to consider. Also, I don't think he's been truly used to the best of his abilities in college.
Yeah,
I think I've got him at 12 for one reason only, and that's on the hope that when he moves into the NFL, when he transitions, he's going to be used as a big slot receiver. If an NFL team takes him and wants to play him as an X, I don't think he's fast enough to do that. You can't win on the outside consistently with 4-6 wheels. I've got a little bit of concern as to how amazing a route runner would need to be to play the Z on the other side. So I think he's pigeonholed to a big slot role. But I do think if he gets that role, someone like a Rashee Rice, that's played the slot and delivered at a bigger size than your typical slot guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, etc. I think, Keon Coleman, I put him at 12 on the basis that a team takes him that's going to use him as a big slot. If it's very apparent that he's not going to be that, let's say, for example, the Lions draft him, he's not going to play the slot over Amon-Ra St. Brown, he won't be 12 in my rankings. He'll probably be near 24.
Yeah. He's super interesting. He is, while not exactly the same type of player, he just reminds me of George Pickens in a lot of ways, just because he is this sort of highlight machine, and he still has that like magic somewhere, right? That little sprinkling of, I can't quite tick a box for it, but there's something right about him that you're like, oh no, if he does put everything together, he could be like a star as well. Just like I still think with George Pickens, even to this day, I think he has all the tools. So if he put it together, he could really, really come to life. So while I don't like a lot about Keon Coleman, and it doesn't make sense to me why he is being like touted. Well, actually, I'll backtrack a little bit. Whenever I first started talking about Keon Coleman and sort of poo-pooing on Keon Coleman, he was going about 1.6. And actually, I think the market has kind of corrected a little bit. So I actually don't hate him here at the back end of the first round at all. I think there is that magic dust and there is that ability for him to come in and to be a star. So as much as I've talked about Coleman not being a great prospect, that was more, at that 1-6 where you're taking like a Roma Dunze now instead. I think that 112 back end of the first, early second, I think that's just fine for Keon Coleman considering the traits that he's got. So I don't actually hate it that much, Kev. That's surprising, right?
Wow, smart guy.
Yeah, I've come full circle on Keon Coleman, and we've got to the end of that first round there, Kev. In round 2, we're gonna speed things up a little bit. We're gonna go rapid fire through. You're gonna give me your pick 2-1, 2-2, and 2-3, and then we'll chat a little bit about just one of those guys.
Sure. So 2-1, I've got AD Mitchell, and then that's the end of my tier there. And then we've got Jonathan Brooks and Trey Benson as the 2 and the 3.
I love it. Let's talk about, actually, surprisingly, we've not actually talked about Eddie Mitchell a lot on the show. Talk to me about Eddie Mitchell. What separates him away from, some of these other wide receivers that he's being thrown around in conversation with? Because, I've seen some people put Eddie Mitchell up there with a Brian Thomas, and I've seen other people say that actually he's more like a Romo Wilson tier. So what do you think is best about Eddie Mitchell?
I think, first of all, he's ranked around here because it looks likely he's going to be a round 1 pick or borderline round 1 pick. So I think that pulls his profile up. But in terms of his game, he's in spurts, he's absolutely dominated some of the best in college. I think it was the Alabama corner, Kool-Aid McKinstry. He absolutely dominated him. He's been open to say that most of the time he doesn't try, which that is a concern to me. But when he does try, he absolutely stands out. So I think it's a risk taking him. Of course, you could have someone flame out, but if he can get his act together, he's got the physical tools to be an absolutely dominant player. I think he's kind of a discount Brian Thomas Jr. in that respect. The fact that the ceiling is so high, if everything pans out as it could, but you're getting him a lot cheaper than Brian Thomas.
Just like his, long lost cousins Grant and Phil Mitchell, right? Just get their act together, and they could be absolutely special. So hopefully he's able to do that. I don't even know. Are Grant and Phil Mitchell still in EastEnders? That's an old reference. I'm not even sure, Kev. But,
I think Phil is, according to my wife.
Okay, all right. So that's good to hear. One of them still kicking about. Maybe let's hope Adonai isn't joining them in EastEnders and he has a long, successful career in the NFL. So we'll move on to your next 3 at 4, 5, and 6. Then, Kev.
Yeah, we've got Jalen Wright at running back, and then 2 QBs to finish this tier. We've got Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix.
So we got Jalen Wright. If I could get my computer to work, that would be excellent. There we go. Jalen Wright, Michael Penix Jr., and then Bo Nix right after him. Let's chat a bit about Jalen Wright then. We've not spoken about any running backs yet. Jalen Wright, you're running back 3. He's my running back 2, actually. I know he was running back 3 consensus on one of the more recent wildcard episodes that I wasn't able to make it on. So I'm right there with you guys on Jalen Wright. Talk to me a little bit about Jalen Wright. Why are you so high on him?
He's someone that he flashes explosiveness. I think that in terms of the scheme that he was in, it's one that's sort of used multiple backs. So the production's maybe not stood out as much as other running backs in the class, but someone that his explosive run rate is elite. And if you're looking to compare it to someone from last year, it's a similar level to Devon Get the Tables A-Chain. Which we're not saying that's 1-for-1 because they're built slightly differently. Jalen Wright's a bigger guy, but explosiveness is a big thing. I think despite a little bit of concern in the past game, I think there's upside there that we didn't see a full usage. I think he can be a 3-down guy. I think there's an untapped potential. I really love the tape that I watched on him. And being honest, the running back class overall it's pretty poor. There's the 3 guys that are in this mock draft here: Brooks, Benson, and Wright. That's going to potentially change based on landing spot because it's within that tier. But yeah, I think in any other class he could be running back 7 or 8, but just based on how poor this class is, he's someone that's untapped to a certain extent. So I'm happy to get involved at this stage.
Yeah, with the catching as well. I mean, he's playing with the absolute dumpster fire Joe Milton, a quarterback as well. So it's hard to really put that against a Milton would tuck and run. I suppose 9 times out of 10 instead of pitching out, which he probably should have. So actually, quite refreshing not to see Joe Milton discussed so much, which I sort of thought would happen. I thought he would be talked about a lot after his combine, but yeah, people have seen the light after Malik Willis. Hey, Malik Willis getting 2 shout outs on the show. How about that? So we got those 3 locked in. Who are your penultimate set of 3 then at 7, 8, and 9, Kev?
Yeah, new tier for me. We've got the Kinks lead singer Ray Davis. We've got Marshawn Lloyd. And then another running back to finish. We've got Braylon Allen. I think Davis for me is above consensus versus the market. Marshawn Lloyd, I'm probably a little bit below in some respects, but also higher in others. And then Braylon Allen, I'm probably lower than the market on him, just because I feel that he needs everything to hit perfectly on draft night to get the right landing spot.
Let's go. Let's focus on. No one's really spoken about Ray Davis, and I'm not really sure why. Because Kev, from what I can see, the big knock on Ray Davis is that he's slightly old, but in terms of his attributes, great player.
Yeah, I mean, that is the biggest knock, that he's going to be 24, but actually, and this is something that Dynasty managers urge you to consider, think of your running backs on a yearly basis. Think of them on at the maximum 2 years, but genuinely try and think about them in redraft mode. Ray Davis is probably one of the most pro-ready running backs in my eyes to come in and succeed in year 1. A lot will depend on draft capital and landing spot, like it does for running back more than any other position. Yeah. But he's someone that can be used as a 3-down guy, someone that's delivered against pretty good competition, and someone that, yeah, I've got him at running back 4. You don't need to take him at running back 4. In some leagues, he'll be going in round 3. So it's just one to keep an eye out for. Ray Davis, see where he goes. And you know what? If he's 24, excellent. In a year's time, if he hits, he's going to be a round 1. You can sell him for a first if he hits. You've made your money back plus extra.
Yeah, absolutely agreed there on Ray Davis. So, Kev, you only got 3 more picks left in round 2. Who are your 3 guys to bring this to a close?
We had to get Blake Corum in, didn't we? Otherwise, people lose their mind if they didn't get Blake Corum in. And then I'm going to finish with 2 wide receivers. As you can see, I've got a little bit of OCD. I've made some nice patterns on the screen tonight. But Malachi Call is my 211. And then 212, I have to give a shout out, a bit of a homage. It might not be my 212 really, but Malik Washington, wide receiver out of Virginia, a guy that I think is going to be a fantastic value on draft day. I'm just hoping that he gets what I expect draft capital and a good landing spot.
Well, let's get you just written an article about him, right? Malik Washington. Yeah. So let's hear about Malik Washington for all those people listening.
So yeah, Malik Washington is a guy that's probably going to be day 3. I don't think you want to take tons and tons of shots on day 3 wide receivers in general, because if you've not got taxi squads, they're just clogging up a space on your bench. You're probably better having a running back there. But I do think in certain roster builds, if you've got taxi squads, if the bench is like 20 deep, he's someone that I'm super interested in. A guy that I think's got the best hands in the class, someone that plays above his size. He's primarily a slot guy, so over 80% of his snaps in college were from the slot. But he's great after the catch. He's pretty elusive, like I said. Someone that's got the best hands. He's going to be a 3rd wide receiver, slot wide receiver. Again, if he lands on a team where he's going to be used, anything other than that, I would have concerns. You don't have to pick him at 212. You're probably getting him in round 3, round 4 of rookie drafts. So Malik Washington's a guy that I'm really nailing myself to the mast for.
I love it. Yeah, I'm gonna be picking up a couple of shares of Malik Washington after hearing and reading your article, Kev. So I think that's good advice for everybody listening. Kev, before we let you go, You've obviously spoke about Malik Washington. Are there any other sort of sleeper players or anyone who you're like, damn, I didn't quite get a chance to talk about this guy and you really wanted to talk about him? Anyone else standing out to you on the list of 24 prospects that you're like, you know what, actually keep an eye out for this guy?
I think the only two I can really think of that are standing out as to if they got surprise draft capital, they're going to shoot up boards. I think first one is Jacob Cowan, wide receiver that played for a couple of college teams, and actually, if he'd come out a couple of years ago, I think he'd gone a lot higher than he has now. I think he's let himself down over the past few years, but the talent's really there. He's expected to be day 3, but someone that's excelled in the Puka Nakua metric, the yards per route ran. So I think he's someone that if you smell manages to sneak round 3, people are going to really pay attention to that. But I'm not out on if he's a round 4 guy either. I think that's someone that's interested to me. And then the final guy, running back called Kimani Vidal out of Troy. Big dude, someone that's untapped potential as a 3 down guy. Again, he's going to be day 3. It's going to be landing spot dependent, but we've seen there are instances where guys can land on day 3 and provide short-term value boost. I think just with a day 3 running back, set your expectations. If you're thinking you're going to have another Kyren Williams, it's very difficult to do that. That's just one example. There's about 20 examples the other way. So if you are taking a day 3 running back, always just bear in mind there's going to be an opportunity to sell. Vidal could be someone that you take in round 4 and you sell him for maybe 2/3 or a second or something like that, and that's what I'll be trying to do in this scenario. Yeah,
I love that. Vidal's a name that's been sort of been floated about a bit more online. I've seen floating about, so yeah, I love that. Love that shot for Vidal, and you know, up and down the board, Kev, I think you've done an absolute smashing job. Love all of the picks you've made. So I just want to say thank you, mate, so much once again for coming on to the show and let us know what you think of these 2024 rookies. Kev, before you go, do you just want to remind everyone where can they find all your great work online?
Yeah, thank you very much, Max, for having me on tonight. It's always great when the best 2 of Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty get together. Yes. Yeah, sorry, Ali. But yeah, I'm on X at the Dynasty Mind. I write for DLF. We've got some really exciting stuff coming out on draft night itself, and the couple of days, like day 1, day 2, day 3, I'll be coordinating an article series for sort of the immediate reactions from the analysts over there. So that's going to be really fun to be part of. You know the bread and butter. It's Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty show with a great man himself and also you, Mags.
Yeah, of course, the grill. Shout out the grill.
Shout out the grill. But we have a lot of fun on that Dynasty show at Fantasy Wildcard, at Wildcard Dynasty. You know where it is. We're bringing the entertainment, but we're keeping it on the reel so that you're actually gaining something from sort of the Dynasty conversation as well.
Absolutely, so much fun chatting with Kev and Ali every single week over on the Dynasty show. And hey, go check out the Wildcard Rewind and the Wildcard Devi show as well. Both absolutely cracking shows too. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening once again. If you've not already, hitting that like and that subscribe, always a good thing. Hey, how about a nice 5-star review on Apple Podcasts as well if you're listening on that? Or hey, shout out Podbean listeners. I was checking out the statistics for the listening. Hell of a lot of you listen on good old Podbean. I don't know what the hell you do over there, but give it whatever the good thing is on that. I don't know if it's thumbs up or stars or whatever, but do whatever it is. That's flick that bean over on Podbean, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, for anything Dynasty you need to know, keep it locked on the Certified Inferno. See you next time. Bye.